What's the worst part about being fat? Story 1. For me, it's that every time I see myself in pictures, I have to reconcile that the mental image I have of myself isn't the reality that other people see. I know that I'm overweight, and I like to think that I'm honest with myself about how I look. But every time I see myself in a full body picture or my profile from the waist up, I realize that I'm bigger than I see myself, and it honestly hurts every time. Answer: I feel the same way about my weight, age, and hair. I don't mean to be vain, but I guess it comes naturally. Not sure if it constitutes denial or what, but it really is painful to be reminded of the reality. It's especially brutal to see how many people here have experienced the rebound I have. Went from 290 to 208 to 255, and it's crushing. Why did I let that happen? I felt so good mentally and physically. At 208, I got compliments. My wife seemed interested in me again. I was so close to getting under 200. I'm not even sure what I did to get there, but it's gone now. Ugh. Answer: just don't forget that there's always a beginning. In 2022, I lost 50 pounds from 290, 240. In 2023, I gained all of it back and a little more. I couldn't believe I had gained it back and had the same thoughts as you. Like, how could I have let this happen? I even got to a point last year where I had resigned myself to being huge and started buying big clothes and just telling myself this was how it was going to be. But then I just got real with myself about being unhappy with how I looked. And this year I buckled down and went from 298 to 217. The difference this time is that over the last few years of trying to lose weight, I've learned more and more about good eating habits and how stress and anxiety can lead to binge eating. The binge eating then fuels depression, which makes me want to give up even more and spiral downward. Currently, I've gained back some weight, about 7 pounds, as I trained for a marathon and upped my calories. I could feel myself letting go again and spiraling over the weight gain, but instead I refocused and reminded myself that none of this is linear. I plan to lose the rest of my weight down to my goal next year. I guess I just wanted to say that you aren't alone in this stuff, and there is always a chance to start again, even if it feels like you've messed it all up. I believe in you. What do you think about this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Laundry list of things. Seeing photos of yourself, of feeling like your mirror is lying to you, general body dysmorphia. Generally, there is one unattractive trait that rarely anyone likes, and that is being fat as a guy. Dating apps are a no-go for mental health reasons. You'll be talking to someone, be upfront about your size, and show pictures so they are fully aware, and still get left on the first date with, "I really like you as a friend." 2B. Friends telling you there's nothing wrong with you, and that you look good, which when compared with reality, feels like a lie, and that no one wants to tell you the truth. Going to the gym is anxiety-inducing. Everyone there is mostly in better shape than you, and it makes you feel out of place. Like, what's the point of trying? Then you do everything right and eat well for a while and exercise, but then your body fights back and refuses to lose weight, hitting a plateau. Trying to tie your shoes as a fat gut sucks. Your joints wear down faster, you get tired more easily. 6. Creases, folds, washing in the shower and getting everything. 7. Fitting into seats on public transportation, flying. 8. General hatred of yourself after eating. In the moment of eating, I am happy, and right after, just tears and depression and self-hatred, and then I'll try to starve myself and go without eating for a while because I can't have a healthy relationship with food. I can keep going. Answer: I was a fat guy. Not my 600 pounds life, but obviously big and out of shape. I just went about my business at the gym and nobody cared. I'm in decent shape now, and I still look around and go, wow, people are so fit. But I never notice any looks back with derision or anything like that. If I see out of shape people at the gym, I just think, cool, good for them, and then think nothing of it. People at the gym are there for themselves. They don't give a about others. And to be honest, if you do want to get in shape and lose the weight, you're going to have to just buck up and put in some work and stop worrying so much about people judging. They may or may not judge, and you can't control them anyway. So, do you want to still be miserable or feel good that you're doing something about it? Story 4. I'm a 59-year-old male that has lost over 100 pounds since 2021. At my worst, I weighed 341 pounds, and I'm 5 feet 7 inches tall. I was suffering from diabetes and heart disease, and now need no treatment for either. For me, it was mental strain of realizing that I was dying and that every day was potentially my last. For the last few years before changing my ways, I felt worse each day. I knew I was going to die feeling miserable. It wasn't until I started to see and feel the effects of diet and exercise that I realized how bad the mental strain was. It's like I was in a mental prison, and I was the one keeping me locked up. It's great to be free again. Live strong! Story 5. Besides the health issues, I think the judgments might be one of the worst things about being fat. As much as many like to claim physical attributes don't matter, most of us can acknowledge that they do play a role in society. A lot of times being fat is correlated to being ugly, lazy, stupid, etc. I'm 5'2", and at my heaviest weighed 198 pounds. I dropped down to 145 pounds, and it was crazy how differently people, even people I had known for years, treated me. Made me wonder how many opportunities I missed out on because I didn't look the part. What do you think about this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Story 6. Loss of confidence. Biggest problem, when everyone around you keeps reminding you that you have gained weight, you start feeling damn conscious and low. Like people need to understand them saying it does not help. I know I gained weight, STFU. I'll only be able to do something about it when it comes from within. Others pointing it out just makes it demotivating. Story 7. I used to be fat, 350 pounds, now 170 pounds. And for me, the worst part was being unable to even the most basic physical thing without sweating buckets and needing to shower. Just felt gross all the time. That and the night sweats almost every night. It's so liberating to be able to walk a couple miles without breaking a sweat now. Story 8. Sweating. I'm 60 pounds overweight according to the BMI. I don't break a sweat around the house, but if I walk for 10 minutes and it's above 75 degrees, I'm sweating bullets. In my last job, the cafeteria was a 10-minute walk from the building I worked in, and after I sat down for 5 minutes, it looked like I was caught in a downpour. Story 9. Typical doctor visit until I got a new doctor. Hurt my shoulder, you have to lose weight. Awful cramps and bleeding from PCOS, you have to lose weight. Skin rash, lose weight. Having to fight for treatments and being seen as a human with complex needs beyond just being fat. Being accused of lying by the doctor when I say I work out/exercise 4-5 times a week. Story 10. The ignorance from other people, the assumptions that you must be lazy, the prejudice against you, the name-calling, being the subject of /ridicule/jokes, the shaming if you eat, the shaming if you don't eat, the shaming if you try anything at all, being public property to be treated at will of said public, the constant advice, whether good or bad, healthy or hurtful. Story 11. I was in amazing shape all my life without having to work for it. Then I got a stomach ulcer and everything went to. Gained 30 kgs in 3 years. I never realized how hard dating is as a fat girl. If I was ever interested in a guy, I had no trouble making him interested in me. Now I've actually faced rejection, and it's really humbling. Story 12. That so many of us who are significantly overweight refuse to admit that it's a serious health issue. We pretend everything's fine because we feel fine right now, but over the next 5, 15, 30 years, our bodies will begin to fail us, and we'll have to deal with serious health issues, not the least of which is our joints giving out far earlier than they should, but also liver disease, kidney stones, gallbladder stones, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, certain types of cancer, sleep apnea, depression, and we'll have to deal with them decades earlier than most people will. But we'll call anyone who expresses even the most politely worded concern for our health fat shamers. If a store doesn't sell 3, 4, or 5 XL sizes, we say they're body shaming. We'll frame our refusal to exercise or eat more realistic portions and healthier food as body positivity. We refuse to have a real conversation about our weight and how serious of a problem it's become in our society. My own weight has roller coastered over the years, and at 6 feet tall, I just recently passed 300 pounds as a late middle-aged man, and it's taken me more than a decade to even have a real conversation with myself about it, let alone be honest in any conversation with others about how serious my weight gain has become. At least I'm open to talking about it. I have friends that are 100 pounds heavier than me and 5 inches shorter who will get mad at anyone who tries to suggest they make lifestyle changes. They refuse to recognize the difference between, man, you look fat, and man, I'm worried about your weight. I mean, hell, our dating apps have 5 different ways to describe being fat: plus size, curvy, full-figured, a little extra, and overweight. But we're so self-deluded about our weight that a lot of actually fat people will describe themselves as average. Although let's keep it real, it's sort of true now that the average person is significantly overweight. We're so incredibly unhealthy as a society right now. I worry for our kids. Editing to add, I wrote this while eating Doritos and drinking a Coke. Story 13. Knowing that no matter what, the skinny girl will always win. Watching people you fell so hard in love with instantly switch up when the girl with the nice body chooses them. And knowing why, and understanding why, and knowing it's my own fault, and if I could just stop eating, I would be good enough. Story 14. Everything. You're both invisible and the most noticeable thing when you go out shopping. People expect you to move out of their way in ways they don't expect of anyone else. If you're both fat and disabled, especially if the disability is the invisible kind, or even if you're just in a lot of pain from being on your feet at work all day, having to use a wheelchair when running errands is treated as an open invitation to stare and pass judgment on why you're in the wheelchair. Clearly, you're only doing so because you're fat and lazy, not disabled or in too much pain to walk further than from your car to the front of the store. Shopping for clothes? Gooding luck. What you find in a store either doesn't fit because most stores refuse to admit how many adults are now obese, or it follows trends that only work for skinny people. Please, fashion designers, stop making shirts that expose my rolls if I move my arms at all. So you go shopping online. If you're a man, the assumption is going to be that you're fat and tall because apparently short men aren't fat in their eyes. If you're a woman, the assumption is going to be that you're not just fat, you're hugely fat. Smaller sizes for people who aren't hugely fat just will not exist. If you do find something that fits, it A, won't look nice, B, is stupidly expensive, or C, both. The only things you will ever have an easy time finding are shoes and socks. That is it. Looking for a job? Again, gooding luck. If you're able to get an interview, the person doing it will pretend they don't notice your weight, but most of the time it'll be easy to tell that they were shocked to see you're fat. Even if you interview well, there's a good chance you won't get the job. Unless you're highly skilled, there's a good chance you'll be forced to take bottom-of-the-barrel retail jobs. When this happens, there's a good chance they'll ignore the reasonable accommodation bit and refuse to allow you to sit as needed because, again, there's no possible way you're doing this for any other reason than you're fat and lazy. Looking for love? Might as well not bother. Remember how you're invisible or the most noticeable thing when out shopping? It works here too. In online dating, if you do get messages, it will only be from creeps, some of whom are into feeder porn, people who messaged you purely to insult you, or people who are old enough to be your parent. Nobody you message will reply to you. You will encounter more profiles than you care to think about that say some variation on no fatties. Have a health problem not related to being fat? Be prepared for your doctor to blame everything on your weight and refuse to delve deeper, even when you ask. In their eyes, you would be as healthy as an Olympic athlete if only you would lose weight. And they will remind you of your need to lose weight every single time you visit, even if you're there because you have the flu or just need a refill of your medication that has nothing to do with your weight. If you're a woman, be prepared for doctors to discount the idea that maybe you have PCOS or endometriosis. Nope, your problems are only because you're fat. And if you do happen to lose a few pounds, it will always be assumed that the weight loss was intentional, even if you know it wasn't and you're concerned about it. And you'll be praised like you're a small child who got a good grade on their math test. Fat kids have it even worse than fat adults because, well, kids can be assholes. For example, I had great self-esteem until 4th grade, 9 years old for those not familiar with the U.S. education system. On one occasion, a classmate walked right up to me, said, "You're fat," and walked away. Nobody had ever said that to me before, not even my parents or pediatrician. It hurt and, quite frankly, still does. On another occasion, I was waiting in line for lunch, minding my own goddamn business, when the 2 kids behind me started playing with my back rolls. There were teachers nearby, and none of them did anything. I was too scared to do anything other than hope they stopped, which they did eventually. That incident left me mentally scarred to the point that I still don't have a great relationship with food and genuinely struggle to not severely restrict the amount of calories I do eat. Story 15. At my heaviest, 376, the worst part was being the biggest person in the room yet. I always felt so small in terms of attention and respect. People definitely treated me like a burden or embarrassment when I was really big. Then I lost 200 pounds and joke's on me, now I want to be ignored because that people that treated me with disgust previously now treat me better. And I still have dysmorphia. I get told I don't need to lose anymore. But when I look in the mirror, I see myself bigger. I don't know how to trick my brain into not doing that. Story 18. Growing up in a family full of morbidly obese people, the worst part I'd say is the brainwashing and delusional thinking that goes on, especially nowadays. People who think they can be obese and healthy. Doesn't work like that. You are a ticking time bomb. I finally decided to make a change and lost 180 pounds. The only thing holding people back is a lack of discipline and laziness. Story 19. When I was obese, it was insanely hard on my body. I'm short, and I felt every extra pound of weight I was carrying. I moved slow, sat down all the time, slept constantly because I was so exhausted just from being fat in general, snored like a bear, still do but not nearly as bad. I was always winded and out of breath, and I felt like I lived my life for my next meal or snack, and it was honestly just incredibly depressing. It had a much bigger effect on my mental health than I really believed was possible at the time, and very little of it had to do with how I felt about what I saw in the mirror. I was in a really bad place in my life for a multitude of reasons, and carrying around about 65 extra lbs didn't make things any easier. It's hard, man. People don't really get just how labor-intensive it is to be overweight. Simply eating less and moving around more seems impossible when you already feel so literally weighed down just trying to live your daily life. Story 20. Former fat person here, male, 6'1", used to tip the scale at 325, now 160. There is a lot that sucks about being fat. They include impaired health. I had 2 blockages in my heart cleared due to my eating bad genetics. Relationship options. I didn't date for years due to my weight. People treating you poorly. I'm treated so much differently now than I did when I was fat. Cloth shopping. Men's big and tall store was the only place I could go. And feeling uncomfortable all the time. There is one benefit, though. It gives you a sensitivity chip that makes you empathize with people and not judge them. I'm a nice, compassionate person now, and I think growing up fat made me that way, which works out nice as an adult because you become more self-actualized/happier. Story 21. I was thin throughout my youth. Gained a bunch of weight until I was in my 30s, lost all that weight, and have gained most of it back. The 2 worst parts of it is running into things. I never realized having all the extra fat on my arms meant I'd slam my funny bone into more things. I didn't believe I was gaining weight again until I started slamming my body into things I'd fit through, and now I'm just sad. I failed. I did the thing, and it worked, and then I gave up. So the worst thing is feeling like there isn't hope, even though you know there is. I've already failed, so what's one more day of not going out to walk? I don't want to spend another day eating grilled chicken. It just feels like being a failure. Story 22. I've had a horrific constant pain just under my rib cage since December of 2019. I went to the doctor in 2020 and was diagnosed fat and stressed. It is now almost 2025 and BC of that same horrific pain. I've actually lost almost 150 pounds due to constant issues. I went to the ER during the summer BC. The pain was so bad, I thought I was having a heart attack. 10 minutes, 28K later, I was diagnosed as fat and should just see a gastric specialist. The same specialist I saw in 2020, who told me I was just fat. The worst part is, I will die from this someday, and it will be years from now. BC, I'm that unlucky. And whoever pronounces my death will probably go on about how easily this was preventable if they weren't fat. Ita. Hell, the worst part is how every comment has at least one bot-riddled chud going just eat less, like eating disorders and genetic diseases aren't the biggest comorbidity around. Story 23. The actual weight of it. I weigh about 100 pounds, 45 kilograms, more than a healthy way for my frame. It's actually exhausting carrying all this lard around all day. My knees hurt, my feet hurt, my spine hurts, my shoulders hurt. I used to love fitness activities like hiking, rock climbing, etc., but I'm way too heavy to do those things regularly and enjoy them now. Story 24. The aches and pains that you think are normal aging but are in fact from carrying extra weight. For example, my lower back and hips would ache horribly, and I would need to go to the chiropractor, massage therapist/doctors for the pain and discomfort. When I began to lose weight, I realized I held my legs wider to accommodate the extra weight on my thighs, and it put direct strain on those areas of my body. Now that I'm 20 pounds lighter, my legs naturally rest closer together, and a lot of my pain is left. Let's not get started on knee pain from extra weight. Story 25. I used to be fat and now merely overweight. Miracle drug, tirzepatide. Worst part of being fat was the constant feeling of failure. Why can I not just eat less? How do naturally thin people manage it? Every time there was food around, I was on my best behavior, trying not to gorge on it. And if no one was around to see my shame, I'd be pigging out. Turns out I had some internal hormone imbalance that, once corrected, makes me act like a naturally thin person. I no longer even want the donuts. I actually want to go for a run. People are nicer to me as well. Not much. I'm a middle-aged, medianly attractive male, but noticeable. That just made my cynicism double. I'm still the same guy, you wankers. Story 26. The knowledge that my misery is entirely self-inflicted, and that if I could just take control of myself for 1 year, I could entirely change it and live the life I've been dreaming of. But I can't even last one day without losing my willpower. It feels like I've been trying to lose weight my whole life, and getting nothing out of it because my trying is still wildly unhealthy because I can't control myself. Story 27. I was always thin, but the last couple of years I ate my emotions and gained weight. But since last May, I lost over 40 pounds, from XL to M. It's really painful to be fat. Your knees, your back, everything hurts. My asthma was acting up. My self-esteem was really low, and ID shopping for clothes. I felt like a big potato. Now I'm rediscovering wearing clothes that I actually like. All the efforts that I made, mostly eating less and better food, are showing, so it's encouraging for the rest of my weight loss journey. I can't wait to see my doctor again. I'm sure that when I told her I wanted to lose weight, she thought I was just one of those middle-aged women who were all talk and no action. Story 28. Primarily other people. People have a lot of hang-ups about size, and you get to participate in them all as the fat friend. I'm fat. Don't say that, you're beautiful. I didn't say I was ugly, bro, I said fat. God, I feel so fat and hideous. Oh, but you look great. Or one of my favorites, being the good fat friend they know. I have genetic joint problems that started in childhood. I'm in a lot of pain. It makes everything harder. Eventually, I got fat. For some folks, that tidbit helps them reconcile my being fat because I'm a good fat. I have a reason for being fat that's acceptable to them. There's a ton of mental gymnastics going on there. On the other hand, I have had some hilarious fat encounters. I was once at a farmer's market and there was a booth sampling tempeh. I'm a curious chonk who is perpetually low on protein, so I wandered over for a taste. There were a couple other folks tasting. As I'm munching, this other fat woman comes up and does this judicious scan of the group of tasters, all going, "Yeah, this is surprisingly good," and zeroes in on me, the only other fat person there, and does this nod to me and goes, "You, is it actually good?" Fat trust exists apparently, LOL. Story 29. I used to be smoking hot throughout my late 20s until I got to be around 50 or so. Guys following me home smoking hot, I mean. Now I'm heavier and older looking. But here's the thing. During my smoking hot years, especially the earlier ones, I thought I was fat and ugly. I used to be sure I had makeup on and my contacts in when going out with my ex-husband so people wouldn't wonder what he was doing with me. He was a good-looking guy, almost as good-looking as he thought he was. Now, when I see photos of myself from that period, I am shocked at how cute I was. Damn, wish I'd known that then. So now when I see photos of myself looking fat and ugly, I think to myself, do I want to come across this photo in 30 years and be bummed because I didn't realize how cute I was? There's a moral there somewhere. Story 30, toss up between the obvious difference in how people treat you when you're above a certain weight. Like many American women, I've been a wide range of weights, and there's literally a number past which I can expect to be ignored or looked over at best and actively targeted for harassment at worst. Finding clothes. God forbid I need a specific item of clothing with less than 2 weeks' notice. Especially since the pandemic, even Old Faithfuls like Old Navy and Kohl's have fewer and fewer plus-size options. Story 31. Hard to decide. Here's all the things Public transportation, especially planes. Depending on the plane, I may need a second seat and always need an extender. Nobody wants to sit next to me, even the third seat in a 3-seat section of I have 2 seats. Clothes. They're more expensive and almost never flattering. They're often just the same patterns as for skinny people, but made wider, never longer to accommodate the belly. Bathrooms. Few stalls are large enough if you're over a certain size, meaning we need to use the accessible stall. This is a problem because it makes it more difficult on people who need it for disabilities. All bathrooms should be larger. The constant bullying, it's horrible. People are often super nasty to fat people, especially fat girls, women. Health issues. We're more prone to various health issues. At the same time, though, we get told to lose weight as a solution to things that have nothing to do with our weight, like if a bone gets broken because of an accident or if we get a sunburn. I even got my weight blamed when I stepped on a nail as a child. Story 32. I've always been comfortable with who I am and accept that I'm a big guy. I made some lifestyle changes and started on Ozempic, and I'm down 18 pounds, but I still have a very long way to go. That said, to answer the question, finding shirts that cover my gut, not being to tie my shoes and thus wearing slip-ons and loafers, being scared to death of breaking a chair anytime at a restaurant or family's house, having trouble wiping after you know what. The looks I get from strangers who I know are judging me and imagining what they're saying on the inside. What my family says about me to each other when I'm not around. They would never say anything to my face, passive-aggressive. Not wanting to fly anywhere due to #5. Also having to upgrade to first class for more room, which costs $. Being super out of breath anytime going up a flight of stairs. Any physical labor. The overall anxiety and thought of impending death that's always in the back of my mind. I'll try to think of more, but those came to mind in no particular order. Story 33. My partner's overweight, and the thing that annoys me the most is when people think it's a moral failing and assume the reason they're not fat is because they have better willpower and self-control, when it's actually about hormones like insulin and ghrelin and how different foods affect it. Also from that, people assume they're lazy. This guy is like a Shire horse. He can work all day and never quit. When we've moved house, he's basically done all the carrying, unbuilding, and rebuilding furniture, driven the lorry, etc., and doesn't stop until it's all done. He does long hikes, goes up mountains, canoed 60 miles in a weekend, built his own business from scratch. Not lazy. Story 34. There's a lot for me, haha. The stairs, my own self-hatred. Not having any pics because I despise the way I look. Not being able to find comfortable clothes that's also cute. The way my car dips when I get in. Not being able to run or climb stairs as well as others. Being told I'm not ugly, I'm just fat. People looking at me funny when I eat in public. The embarrassment I feel when I go through a drive-thru. I could go on. What would you do? I'm waiting in the comments. Story 35. I am not fat, but I want to chime in. Healthcare will have to handle you differently if you are fat, larger. There are serious limitations on what the healthcare system can do for you if you're a certain size. It's harder for surgeons to conduct a surgery on a fat person, for example. Not just your performance factors, but literally moving the fat out of the way is a difficult effort. If you get too large, you might not fit through the MRI too. You might have to use the open MRI, which is without a doubt worse than the standard bore. These things pop up all over healthcare. It literally becomes harder to take care of you. People will, but you have to understand that things get harder. Story 36. When I gain weight and get beyond what I'm comfortable with, I just feel heavy and sluggish. And that usually happens because I got on the carb train. And when you're in carb mode, all you want is more carbs, so it's a vicious cycle that's hard to get out of. Being heavy and eating like while knowing you're just digging yourself a deeper hole that you're going to have to work hard to get out of is not great for your state of mind. I don't myself very often. But when you buy that bag of chips that you know you absolutely shouldn't be eating but lack the willpower to walk away from, I definitely feel shame and disappointment in myself. And going to the gym just makes me hungrier. So that's not necessarily the easy fix it seems to be. If you go to the gym for an hour and a half and then pig out the next 3 days because your body says more, please, you're in for a bad time. I literally have to get to the point where I'm becoming miserable to actually start eating right and stop slamming carbs, and it just gets harder to get out of the older I get. I'm not looking forward to doing this when my metabolism eventually falls off a cliff and it gets that much harder to reset and get back to a healthy place again. Story 37. People's treatment towards you. I was really skinny and then got PCOS and gained weight at a rapid rate uncontrollably. And then I treated my PCOS and got prescribed Ozempic and lost all the weight. The difference of people's treatment towards me was astronomical after I had gained all the weight. And I blamed it on myself for being depressed, which is a PCOS side effect, and thought I was emitting some kind of weird vibe that made people stop wanting to make eye contact with me and just overall ignore my existence. I kid you not, I was being talked over, talked through not to, and just straight up forgotten to be included in certain things. But then I lost the weight and still kept the depression and realized my behavior wasn't the issue at all. It was how I looked that made people not want to look at me / talk to me / acknowledge my existence. It's a horrible way to live. Story 38. Worst part about being fat. Well, for starters, as an American, you almost always can't buy European clothes. Their 4XL feels like a large to me, so forget that. Sitting on a plane for 18 hours was pretty rough. Pretty sure the lack of inactivity those 18 hours gave me blood clots. Fatty tumors are annoying to say the least. They can be painful in my experience, more than annoying. But it's cosmetic surgery to get them removed, which is bull. To really sum it up, the worst part about being overweight is the physical and mental toll that it can have on your body. I'm 6'4" and fluctuate between 30-ish pounds between the summer and winter months. My average weight floats between 300, 330. Story 39. Social stigma and judgment from everyone. Everyone has a vice or a problem or something that they try to hide from people. Can't tell if someone has a gambling addiction, porn addiction, abusive personality, or other health problems. Fat people, the problem is out there for everyone to see. And everyone focuses on this one part of your life that is out of control, and you have to overcome that before they will even interact with you. Story 40. Constant judgment about your weight. Hating yourself because you believe the bullies when they say it's your fault / you fail at willpower / moral failure. Hating yourself because you can't lose it or keep it off. More judgment when you try other methods like Ozempic and actually have success with it. But people say you didn't do it the right way with diet and exercise, as though you haven't tried 1,000 times. Difficulty clothes shopping. Cringing when you look at photos of yourself. Lifelong psychological torment and scarring that infects you and your loved ones because you need to love yourself in order to love others. And it's really hard to show yourself kindness when you've been conditioned your whole life to judge yourself for failures that aren't your own. Story 41. So I'm not obese, but I'm a former athlete who let himself go in the midst of personal issues and work schedule. I don't look fat, but I have an obvious belly now, and it affects the fit of all my pants, underwear, etc. The tough part for me is being hungry and not being hungry at the same time. I know this doesn't make sense, but I will have the cravings of needing to eat, but physically I know I'm not actually hungry because of when I last ate, and of course the big layer of fat on my midsection. Occasionally it will also feel like inflammation, and I hold my stomach like a pregnant woman when laying in bed. Story 42. Knowing I'm not the best that I can be. Being generally ignored to the point that some people take huge effort to do so. Having to buy larger clothes that are usually tight in places I don't want them to be tight in, and loose where I don't want them to be loose, showing my fatty fatness. looking in the mirror even when I'm happy, and just instantly self-defeat. I used to weigh 280 pounds at my heaviest. I took measures to lose weight and just weighed in at 185, like a 5-year journey. I've done up and down many times. I feel much better about myself and don't have many of the problems of being fat, although I still am. I notice more looks from the ladies, though. Story 43 stairs. I have always been pretty small and light. At one point in my life, I was about 50 pounds overweight. I began getting exhausted in a short time and had to stop and rest on a flight of stairs. I felt not good about myself. Smoking didn't help, but the point was I realized I had stopped taking care of myself in general. It wasn't being overweight that was a problem. It was my attitude towards myself. Story 44. The lifelong self-esteem issues and problems with food. I've lost enough to where I'm just over the line into a normal weight range. I don't have lasting physical health issues. However, I do pick myself apart multiple times a day. The number may be in the normal range, but I will never be able to view myself as looking normal and conventionally attractive. I will never be able to shake the disordered eating habits and the notion that my goodness is inherently related to my weight. Story 45. I was very skinny my whole life until I graduated high school in 2014. Then I ballooned up and was pretty overweight, but lost about 60-ish pounds in 2018 and have kept it off since then. Having been skinny, then fat, then skinny again, here's my take. I'd say the hardest things are difficulty breathing, always overheating even in colder weather, clothes never fitting right, and if they do, they still look misshapen because of your body shape. Every photo taken of you puts you in a bad mood, always being too tired to go do anything, even just walk around shopping, and being over-reliant on needing to eat, which can cause everyone around you to be annoyed. There were times when I'd hang out with my friends and force them to go out to eat when no one was hungry so I could get food. It was embarrassing. I will never go back to being overweight as long as I live. Story 46. So I have in the last 6 months lost 80 pounds. I went from roughly 265 to 185. The biggest change has been that my ankles, knees, and back don't just randomly hurt for days on end. I can go for a run in the morning and an hour later my legs don't hurt and I feel refreshed instead of in pain the rest of the day. It has been addicting losing weight. I like the way I look in photos now. I like the positive affirmation I get from others. I'm just so much happier with myself. It's been great. The only issue I've run into is that my hands are now cold all the time. Story 47. 2 years ago, I was around 300 pounds. I'm a bit under 6'4", so I kind of hid the weight, but I felt like crap every day. Couldn't climb one flight of stairs without stopping to rest. There were many other things too, of course. The worst part was that I could not see my feet. Sounds trite, but it hit me hard. Inspired me to make changes, so I did. Started slow, diet, mild exercise, and so forth. Been at it for, 2 years. As of this morning, I'm at 227 pounds. Feels so much better. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but totally worth the effort. Story 48. Every task is harder to complete the larger you get, putting on socks, standing, etc. From there, the self-control is hard to get past. You tell yourself in the morning that you are turning your life around. Lunch rolls around, and you mindlessly eat 1,500 cal in a sitting. Then you yourself in the evening. Repeat. People don't take into consideration throes of addiction that people go through because food is an accepted drug. Of course, everyone is commenting on the mental aspects which traps you in a viscous cycle. It's truly unfortunate. Story 49. I feel I get judged by my weight even by family. My father always judged women's weight, so it made me very self-conscious. I was always very skinny until having kids and getting older. Now I feel I'm extra judged by everyone, plus my family and husband, who used to like the books with the really skinny women. So now I have pictures of myself I won't take pictures of if I can help it, which hurts because I have none with my grandkids. And the kicker is, I only need to lose 40 pounds. But society and clothes tell me I do not look good at all. Story 50. I was never really overweight until I quit smoking. Then I gained 30 plus pounds and went up to 230-ish. Worth it in the long term. I am 6 and 2 inches, so I could carry it okay, but it was centered somewhat in my midsection. So my 42 size suits with 34/36 pants didn't. I had upsized my suits to 44, but the pants were 38/40ths, which were too big, and the jackets didn't fit well. I had to upsize underwear from M to L, and I got tired all the time. Story 51. Being told to just stop eating and exercise to lose weight when I'm already dieting and working out. Having people act like gaining weight is an issue with my willpower when I have a medical condition causing it that I can't control. Being shamed for just wanting a damned cookie. Oh, and every doctor visit boiling down to, well, it's probably just because you're obese. Story 52. 2 things for me. The heavy feeling. I've gone back and forth plus 70 lbs in the last 10 years. There's a certain point where you just feel weighed down. It's kind of like that feeling when you get out of the swimming pool after being in for a few hours. The second is docs not taking you seriously when you ask for help finding a diet that works for you. Sikyo didn't work for me until I was medicated for hypothyroidism and went on a dairy-free diet. Any dairy in my diet and I can't lose a pound. But when I asked a doctor about tips, all I got was, "I'm not giving you weight loss meds." I didn't want meds. Story 53. The way people treat you. People feel so much braver being rude and even cruel, or they are trying to not see you altogether. When I was in high school and for a little bit after, I was a model, and later after a health problem that caused some rapid weight gain. Pretty privilege is a thing, and it's a huge thing. Those were two very different worlds. Being fat was even a career setback for me. If I can help it, I will never get back to fat again. Story 54. I'm fat, but I'm also really short and kind of compact. I can never find clothes that fit me properly, mainly pants. If the length is good, I can never get them up past my ass. If the waist is good, the legs are longer than all the Star Wars movies combined, or the rest of the pants just fit funny. The crotch is always a gamble as to whether my thighs are chafing like crazy, or I'm getting the dick version of a camel toe. I've given up on looking at pants whenever I go shopping because I've accepted that no brand name place is going to fit me properly. Story 55. So I've always been fat. In 2020, I lost a load of weight. Then in 2021, I developed an eating disorder in fear of gaining weight again. I then went to therapy, and for 2 years now, I don't make myself sick anymore when I eat, but I gained most of the weight back. The worst part is the compliments I was getting that I don't get anymore. Like if when I was sick but losing weight, I was doing great, and now I fell back into eating too much, when actually I fought really hard to get out of my ED. Plus the lovely new closet of clothes I got myself when I lost the weight that I keep there because I will lose it again, and the clothes will fit me again. I'm so tired, honestly. Story 56. Aside from the obvious ones others have said about confidence, joint pain, clothes not fitting, and health issues. For me, it's the minor pains. Need to bend over for an extended period to plug something in under a cabinet or grab a napkin that fell under the table. It's easier for me to get on my knees than bend over. If I bend over and have to hold my stomach up as it hangs to the floor, my back will hurt and I'll be out of breath. It gave me more sympathy for pregnant women. My thighs started rubbing together during the summer sweat, so I bought a friction defense stick, and it helped at first. But then the chub rub started wearing away my underwear in the thighs, so I tossed 20 pairs and bought new ones. Now the new ones are rubbing my testicles in a painful way if I wear them all day. A 5-hour shift? No problem. But if I wear them to an 11-hour shift, I'll be limping by the end. My legs have pain, but not the kind skinny people would expect. And I recently started growing my hair out, so now it pools at my shoulders. And combined with my double chin, it looks like I have no neck. I feel like I need to cut all my hair off so people can at least have a neck from the side. Story 57. Adapting to being fat. The fatter you get, the more lifestyle changes you'll make to accommodate your weight. Something as simple as tying your shoes, sitting down and folding your legs, self-grooming, putting clothes on, and even walking. On a subconscious level, you're constantly making changes to support this weight. This happens gradually until you can't remember how it felt to do little things effortlessly. Being uncomfortable all the time forces you to seek comfort in any way possible, and a lot of times that's through food. It's a vicious cycle that takes a huge amount of willpower, support, and time to break out of. Food is just as much of an addiction as drugs and alcohol, and the Thai thing is, we all need food to survive. Story 58. Aside from the obvious health-related issues, it's other people's judgment or assumptions that can get under your skin at times. What bothers me the most is when people think they're doing you a favor by over-serving you food when you're a dinner guest. You look around at everyone else's plates, and you're the only one whose plate is piled up with enough food for 3 people. Then the look of shock and dismay when you decline the offer of dessert or seconds. It's like, dude, just because I'm fat doesn't mean I eat like a farm animal. People don't understand that being overweight has more to do with genetics than anything else.